Hello and welcome to Loopie. In this video I'm going to show you how to make the most out of straight A to B routes. So I'll just load one up. So there we go. Although the route was quite lumpy at nearly 4,000 meters of climbing, because it was an A to B route, it does look fairly straight when it loads into the Loopie app. There are a few little techniques that you can do to make these routes look way more interesting. So the first thing I like to do is just rotate the line and try and find the most interesting angle for the Loopie. So yeah, if you just click directly onto the image with the left mouse button and rotate, that will turn the image around 360 degrees, and you can keep turning that. There's no limit to that. You can also use the rotate slider in the left hand panel, which does exactly the same thing, although you do get a restriction at the edges. So I tend to find clicking directly onto the image gives the better and kind of more natural way to find the best angle. I'd also like to zoom in here a bit and see a bit more of the detail. You'll notice that the info box, it just defaults to this bottom right hand side, is getting in the way a bit. So if you click the data tab, a little move icon appears. We can just drag that out of the way for now. We'll come back to that when we've got the image looking how we want it. So the other technique for these straight line routes is to have a very kind of dramatic foreground and background. So the way we do that is just zoom in, and then in this case the end of the ride, there were a few more kind of kinks and bumps, so it'd be nice to have that in the foreground, because if I just rotate that around, you'll see it's slightly less interesting at the beginning of the ride. So let's stick with these climbs, and again just kind of rotate it to try and find the best angle. But something like that where you can see a lot of definition in the routes. There we go, and you can be quite extreme with this, and then just keep tilting it so you keep all the line within the image. But that's starting to look quite interesting now. So I'll move on to the next tab, the Advanced tab, and here we can play around with the elevation height. So pushing it all the way to the left reduces the elevation, and then sliding all the way to the right is the opposite of that, and really kind of pushes the elevation, but somewhere just slightly to the left of the maximum. Looks quite nice for this. And again, you can click back on the image and just rotate it and just make these minor adjustments until you're kind of really happy. The second slider decreases or increases the dot height. In some cases it's better to have the dots bigger, but in this case, to make more of the terrain, let's make them as small as they can go. And then the third slider adjusts the line width, so you can just move that. You can either have it thicker or sort of hairline thin, but it's probably somewhere in between both of those. Again, gives a nice kind of splash of colour. You get a clear sense of the route that you've ridden, and that's starting to look pretty good now. The next thing you can do to make these straighter routes look more interesting is to add points of interest or location markers along the route. So for this, I'll go into the Data tab and just move that slightly closer to the line. When you're in the Data tab, if you roll over the route, you'll see a distance marker, and that shows you how far into the route a particular point was. So I know at the start you can see there's a little bump there. That was the first climb, Col de Port. But what I can't do, I can't add that because the start marker, the text for that is overlapping the line. But what I can do, I can edit that. So if I roll over the marker, two icons appear, and I can either delete it or I can edit it. In this case, I want to edit it, so I click that, and a pop-up appears with three tabs in. And all I want to do in this case is just change the position of the marker. At the moment it's ranged right, and I'll just swap that to range left. And there we go. So you can see that the marker has now moved away from the line. And I know that Calder Port was around about sort of 13 kilometres into the route, so I'll try and, there we go, that's about the top of the climb there. So if I click that, I then get the same pop-up again, and I can start adding in the details. So Calder Port. I click the stats tab and that tells me, yeah, so I'm 13 kilometres into the ride at a time of 1 hour, 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and the elevation was 1,225 metres. And I want to keep all that data on there. And when you click on the position tab, there's an auto place which it defaults to, but sometimes that doesn't behave particularly well. So I just like to override that and use the manual position. So in this case, I want it to appear to the right of the line. So I'll click the right button there and then just confirm this. And there we go. There we have a little label marked Calder Port and exactly where I want it. Now, I'll keep going along the line and adding a few more points of interest. So there we have it. That starts to make this straight line look way more interesting. The last thing I want to do is just title this, so rather than the default ride title, let's call it Raid, which is what it was. Spell it correctly, and just position that. There we go. And again, even with the labels added, we can go back into the Move tab and just fine tune how we want the loopy positioned. And as you can see, the labels stay exactly where they are and pointing to the point in the line that you've selected. So I think that's starting to look really good now. To save this, let's press the preview and order button. And there we go. So this is just gives you an idea of how your loopy will look in a frame, and you've got some options to see what the background wallpaper can look like. So there's a dark background, a medium colour and a light colour. So you can make some fairly quick decisions on whether or not the light looking loopy is going to look good on the wall that you've got in mind at home. If you want to make any more edits, then just click the back button, or if you're happy with what you've got, click the order button, and that will take you through to the website where you can choose the sizing and framing options and buy your loopy print. I hope that was helpful and hope to see you soon for another loopy video.